What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Bleav in Texans podcast. I'm your host, Cecil Shorts III. And man, we got a good one for you today. Just watched the AFC and NFC Championship on Championship Sunday, and it got my mind going and got my mind racing. How can the Texans get over the hump? They've never been past the NFC divisional round, right? But they've been in the last 2 years with a new head coach, with a second year quarterback. But how do you get over that hump? How do you get to the AFC Championship and ultimately the Super Bowl? How does that happen? Well, I'm sitting there watching the games yesterday, and I'm looking at Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, how that offense is being run, how that defense is being run, and the Eagles just kind of demolished the Redskins yesterday. The Redskins made it a little bit fun because Jaden Daniels is special, but that run game of the Eagles was amazing. So I'm looking at that. I'm observing. I'm watching the AFC Championship game when it comes to Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes. And when you think about Patrick Mahomes, the comparison for me when it comes to the AFC is like Michael Jordan when in the 90s in that Eastern Conference. When you had Michael Jordan, but you also had Patrick Ewing and John Starks with the Knicks. You also had Reggie Miller and Rick Smits with the Pacers. You had other teams that were highly competitive. But to get over that hump, to get to the championship, you had to go through Chicago Bulls and Michael Jordan. And that's how I feel when it comes to the Kansas City Chiefs and the Houston Texans. How can the Texans get past that hump? What do they have to do to get past number 15, who I Bleav is going to his fourth or fifth Super Bowl in the last 7 years? I don't think no player, no quarterback has ever done what he has done in his first 7 years in the NFL. It's exceptional to watch. But when you look at the AFC, and you look at where the Texans are, in my mind, it's like, okay, you got a gauntlet. You got a gauntlet because the landscape of it is Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, and of course, just like we mentioned, Patrick Mahomes. So to me, this is the most important offseason for the Houston Texans in their history to date, in their history, because you're in prime position to make that Super Bowl run, to make that AFC Championship run, and be a true contender. It's probably the best opportunity you had to be a true contender. Coming into this year, honestly, my opinion was that you were a true contender with the pieces that you added. Now it's about how do you go about this offseason? What do you have to do to get over that hump, to get to the AFC Championship and to potentially a Super Bowl title? Because I'm gonna be honest with you, when you have those quarterbacks that I just named, if you name your top five quarterbacks in the NFL right now, if you name them, I can ask a random person, what's your top five quarterbacks in the NFL? You're gonna say Mahomes, you're gonna say Allen is somewhere in there, you're gonna say Lamar, you're gonna say Joe Burrow. All four are where? In the AFC. So your number one priority is all season. Honestly, it's a no-brainer, is to find an offensive coordinator. You have to find one that's going to help develop CJ Stroud going into year three. He really needs to take ownership of the offense, whatever offense it is, especially at the line of scrimmage. A lot of things we saw in year one, I want to see him come back to in year three as far as going through his progression, using his check downs, and I want to see him use his legs more, right? If you look at the NFC or AFC Championship, all four quarterbacks that played were able to use their legs. I'm telling you, it's a killer for defensive coordinators, a killer. When you draw up the perfect defense, the coverage is perfect, the blitz you got is perfect, the stunts up front are perfect, and then all of a sudden the quarterback is running up the middle for a first down on third down or fourth down. When you scramble to the left and able to make a play down the field. There's nothing a defensive coordinator can do. Nothing you can do. So for CJ to be able to use his legs more and that be in the game plan or encouraged by the offensive coordinator, that's going to be huge. Now, we made a video last week. We made a clip from our episode last week. And you guys did a great job commenting. I was commenting back. It was fun going back and forth of my list of candidates that I think could be great as far as offensive coordinators for the Texans, right? I listed Mike McCarthy. I listed who else did I list? I listed Chip Kelly. I listed Nick Caley. I listed Doug Peterson, right? First thing I want to say about that list, when you hear the former head coaches on that list, a lot of you were saying, oh my gosh, they can't win games, they can't do this, they can't do that, they ruined the Eagles, or they're not a good, they just struggled in Jacksonville. You have to separate the head coach from the play caller. Two different things. When you're running a team and calling plays at the same time, that's a completely different beast. You're in charge of 53 guys, honestly, practice squad too. So around 70 guys, you're in charge of all the coaches, the culture of the building, how things are ran day to day. It's so much that goes into it as a head coach and play caller. Get that out of your mind. Just think about that particular coach as a play caller alone. So with Chip Kelly, just as a play caller, D'Amico's running the show, doing a heck of a job, leading the way. The culture is swarm culture is being created. Guys are buying in. All you need is an offensive guy, in my opinion, with some experience, right? With at calling plays and experience around the league and experience of using different formations and different whatever the case may be. So don't think of those guys as the head coach. Think of us just a play caller alone. Chip Kelly, creativity, right? Doug Peterson, been there, done that. Help with Nick Foles, help with multiple quarterbacks. Nick Foles was Super Bowl MVP under Doug. So just think of Mike McCarthy. He had Aaron Rodgers calling plays for Aaron and moving things around and being creative and getting outside the pocket. It's tons of great options, right? When it comes to that. But when it comes to the head coaches, former head coaches, don't get so caught up in this thinking, oh, he was a terrible head coach or he ruined. No. Him as a play caller is what you're looking for. Can he develop CJ? Can he fix the offensive line? Can he bring in an offensive line coach that's on the same page as the OC? That was one of the biggest issues last year with Bobby Slowick. Slowick necessarily didn't hire that offensive line coach, so their terminology was different. How they was teaching was different. They just weren't on the same page, and it showed from Sunday to Sunday. That's going to be one of the biggest things. Who is your offensive coordinator? How can they develop CJ? How can they really get things going? So those names, let's remember, let's stay away from the head coach. Let's separate the head coach and the play caller. Number two, I would say when it comes to the offensive coordinator spot is really, I'm gonna go back to mention their name. And in my comments, I mentioned the name, but I didn't say it in the video. Gerard Johnson, who's actually interviewing, according to Aaron Wilson, NFL insider. He's actually interviewing for the job early this week. So either today, tomorrow, Wednesday, something like that. Gerard's already in the building. He's already in the building, meaning he knows CJ. Matter of fact, CJ knew him since he was 16 years old. I'm going to go out on a limb and say this. I don't think the Texans want to lose Gerard Johnson. Either as an OC or the quarterback coach or assistant OC, whatever you want to give him, title you want to give him, I don't think you can afford to lose him. Because whatever new OC is coming in, they probably would not, besides Gerard, they probably won't be in the building, right? They're completely new to the Houston Texans. So my advice would be, even if you don't hire Gerard, is to bring him on because CJ trusts him. He knew since he was 16 years old in the Elite 11. There's an interview clip out there where CJ is talking very highly of Gerard Johnson. You can tell it's very genuine how they connect over the years and how Gerard is instilling into CJ confidence. And you need that guy, a guy that can speak directly to CJ, that can speak his language, that can communicate with him, and that's somebody that he trusts. Right. So even if he's not the OC, I think you need to keep him in the building. But I'm not against him being the offensive coordinator. Now, I'll be the first one to say I want an experienced play caller, just because I think you're in a time frame where you're in this rookie window with CJ's contract that you want to win now while you can. Right. And I don't want to go through those growing pains. But with Gerard, I think, number one, he's ready. The only thing I would say is you want to bring in a veteran. Bring in a veteran to help really mentor him. When I mean a veteran, I mean another coach that's called plays before at some point. He can be an assistant quarterback coach. He can be whatever title you want to give him, but bring a vet that's called plays before in with Gerard and let Gerard run the reins. Because Gerard knows football. He's a quarterback in the league, played at A&M. He bounced around the NFL a little bit, been in different coaching circuits, been in different systems. He is a very intelligent guy. The guys like him, and CJ loves him. One thing about quarterbacks, you want to make them comfortable. Think about Patrick Mahomes. He's had Andy Reid the last 7 years. He had Eric Bieniemy before that the last 5 years, right? Whatever the case may be, you want to bring somebody that can make the quarterback comfortable. They know the system. They know the terminology. They can go out there and just play ball now. Like Patrick Mahomes goes out there and just plays ball. Josh Allen just plays ball. They know what to expect, what's coming. They know how to react to it. They just go out there and play. And there was times this year where CJ looked like he was thinking a little bit too much, holding on to the ball a little bit too much. So whoever that guy is, whether it's Gerard or somebody else, you want them to make that guy comfortable. That's why I mentioned Gerard. You don't want to lose him because CJ trusts him so much. It seems like even if he's the quarterback coach, that he can bounce ideas off of him and really help develop and mold CJ into the quarterback that we all want him and think he'll be, which is a franchise changer. Um, so Gerard Johnson recently interviewed, or was going to interview earlier this week, or will interview, excuse me, this week, according to the NFL insider Aaron Wilson. That's going to be a big one. Another guy I think we should think about that I didn't mention last week is Eric Bieniemy. I talked about this not too long ago. I don't know why I didn't think about him earlier. Super Bowl guy, got the best out of Mahomes. Mahomes loved him. I think he had a stint this year with UCLA, but part of the gig with UCLA was, hey, at the end of the year, I want to get back in the league. I'm not sure if his name is floated out there, but I would be interested to see and hear him, that's Eric Bieniemy, interviewing for the job as well. So let me go quick to one of our sponsors, Underdog Fantasy, the easiest place to play fantasy sports. It's available in 30 states, and all you have to do is pick higher or lower on your favorite player's stats, and you can win up to 100 times your money. It's pretty simple. So if you had like Patrick Mahomes, I keep saying Patrick Mahomes, we're gonna move on from him. Say like CJ Stroud, over or under, higher or lower, excuse me, for 274 and a half yards, right? You will pick higher, you will pick under or lower, and then you can win your money from there. So if you want to get in the action, you can sign up at underdogfantasy.com and remember to use my promo code Bleav Texans to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash and a free pick. So let's get back here. Really talking about the offensive coordinators. That's one of the biggest things they got to do in this all season. Another big thing I think that needs to happen with the Houston Texans, they have to fix their O-line issues. And again, I think it's going to be huge on the offensive line. I'm sorry, on the offensive coordinator to really hire the offensive line coach so they're on the same page. So whoever that offensive line, that new offensive line coach is, new offensive coordinator is, they have to be on the same page as far as their communication to the offensive line, their terminology to the offensive line, how they're going to block stunts, how they're going to pick up the blitzes, who's calling the different protections. Is it going to be the center? Is it going to be CJ? And start that process early on so there's no issues with it, and you can practice it from the first time of OTAs all the way up until week 1 of the season. So I think that's going to be huge. OC, and then fixing the O-line issues. I'm going to be honest with you. Besides Laramie Tunsil, because it's hard to find a solid left tackle, I'm not against letting every other offensive lineman go or compete for a starting spot, right? I'm not saying besides Laramie Tunsil, he needs to earn it, but I think he's one of the top tackles in the league. It's hard to find. He's a really good offensive tackle, and I think as the season went on, he tightened up on his false starts and stuff like that. But at left guard, at center, at right guard, at right tackle, even Titus Howard, who signed a contract not too long ago, I'm bringing in competition. I want to see these guys improve. The best 5 will be on the field if I was D'Amico. Period. It just has to be. Shaq Mason struggled last year. Kenyon Green struggled last year. Drew Shuggs showed some improvement at times, but he struggled a little bit too. Jared Patterson wasn't bad, but is he the guy at center? Is he the guy at left guard, right guard? Like what needs to happen? They have to fix those issues. When you look at the Championship Sunday, those 4 offensive lines for those 4 teams are some of the top 10 offensive lines in the NFL. You have to be able to run the football and protect your quarterback. That's just what it is. That's just what it is. So, number 2, you got to fix your O-line issues. Thirdly, when it comes to the most important offseason in Texans history, what you need to do this offseason, you have to find another playmaker outside of Nico and Joe Mixon. Tank Dell, I doubt he's back from next season. Stephon Diggs, is he somebody that you're interested in bringing back? He's not the guy he once was as a number 1 receiver. He's still a very competent number 2 receiver. But how will his body, how will he react coming back from an ACL injury at 30 years old, right? And how much money will he be asking for in free agency? Do you go after a younger guy? Do you go after a younger guy? Do you go after a T. Higgins type, right? And I'm not understanding I shouldn't say understanding. I'm not fully aware of how much T. Higgins wants and what's the cap room, just throwing names out there. But do you go out and get another playmaker? Maybe it's somebody, okay, say T. Higgins is too much. Maybe a Darius Slayton from New York Giants, a guy that's proven to make plays, a guy can proven it can be a number two receiver, a guy can go out there and make plays when his number is called. I think Darius Slayton would be a great pickup outside of Nico Collins. You also need to look at who's going to be your number two running back. Is it going to be Dameon Pierce still? Is it going to be Dare? It's so many other weapons. Dalton Schultz, I don't think, and he got paid this offseason, I don't think he lived up to expectations, or he actually did what you think he would do coming into the season, right? And that could have been because of CJ's up and down season, right? It could have been because of the play calling. It could have been because Bobby didn't really, give him any routes or stuff that could or plays that could really benefit Dalton. But at the same time, when the ball came his way, they can make the most of it, right? So you gotta find another playmaker on that offensive side of the football. Like, you have to figure out who is going to be that guy. Is it a guy in the draft? Is it a guy in free agency? Is it an older guy, younger guy? Is it John Mechie? Is it Xavier Hutchinson? Can one of those guys step up and really be a playmaker and make some plays for this team? But you need options. You need more options and guys that have to make plays. And then looking at the defensive side, this is my last thing I think you need to do, in the most important offseason in franchise history for the Houston Texans to date, is continue to add depth to that defensive side of the ball. When you look at the front, you got Daniil Hunter on one side, Will Anderson Jr. on the other. Awesome job. But what do you do with a Mario Edwards, with a Tim Settle, with a Derek Barnett, with a Foley? What do you bring these guys back? Um, are they affordable? Were they looking for? Add depth. I think that would be critical. You love what you've seen from Kamari Lassiter, rookie out of Georgia. You love what you've seen from Derek Stingley, all pro this year. Well, he's a Pro Bowler. I think he'll be an all pro this year. It is an outstanding, standing season. I think the last 8 games of last season coming to this season, he's just been phenomenal. And to me, he's the best corner in the NFL. It's probably close because Patrick Surtain is really good, but Derek Stingley, man, I would pick him. His ball skills, his ability to stay on top, his ability to bait the quarterback. He's just phenomenal. But you're comfortable with your two corners. But what about your backup corners? What about your nickel? What about your third and fourth corner? Like, guys need depth there, right? Kalen Bullock, awesome job this year as a rookie. Ball hawking, staying that deep third, staying in that deep safety, understanding what's going on. Jalen Petrie coming off a pec injury. Will he still be the same? Do you still want to use him the same way? Right? He was more of a nickel. He was more of a nickel slash linebacker, strong safety, really up the line of scrimmage, making plays. My gosh, Jalen Petrie was on his way to have his best season of his career until he went down. And then you got Jimmy Ward, right? Back-to-back seasons where he ended with some injury. He's getting older. You need to add some depth at safety. And of course, linebacker, you already know you need some more depth, with Christian Harris, Henry To'o, and the rest of the guys there. So you really need to figure out ways to get depth on that defensive side. But the defense was lights out this year. The defense was phenomenal. The defense was phenomenal, and this was not what you were anticipating or expecting coming into the season. You thought the offense would be phenomenal. The defense would need to step up. Well, the defense definitely stepped up, and the offense regressed a little bit, right? So I think when you look at it from that standpoint, looking at the AFC Championship game, how can the Texans get over the hump? This is the most important offseason for the Houston Texans to this date, and I gave you four things they need to attack this offseason. Hey, that would. And if they do that, I think they will be looking forward to a possible better run and maybe get over the hump. But y'all, thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe on all platforms to get and watch and like Bleav in Texans podcast. Much love from me, your host, Cecil Shorts III, and I will catch y'all next week.